In speaking with Chair Salas, he is still in session, and he will join us as soon as he can leave there. And we wanted to continue this afternoon, so please, it's nice to see everyone. Please. Good
morning, Honorable Committee Chair Senator Jerry Hill and Assemblymember Rudy Salas, who's not. And good morning to fellow committee members. I am Hildy Aguinaldo, the recently elected president of the California Acupuncture Board, and I'm truly honored to be here today to address the issues and concerns the committee has regarding the functionality of the California Acupuncture Board. With me today are my colleagues, newly elected Vice President and my fellow board member, Mr. Jamie Zamora, and our newly appointed Acting Executive Officer, Mr. Ben Bodia. We come before you as the new leadership of the California Acupuncture Board. As the new leadership of the board, we fully comprehend the seriousness and the gravity of the concerns raised by the committee and understand that much work lies ahead of us as we move through this sunset review process. However, we are excited to work with the committee and staff to address and approve upon all of its concerns, and we'll do everything we can to ensure that the Acupuncture Board is functional and transparent in performing our principal mission of protecting the public. The committee has identified 4 issues it would like addressed in our testimony today. First, in enforcement. Second, in strategic plan goals. Third, in the comparison of the California Acupuncture Licensing Exam, also called CALE, versus the National Certification Commission for Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine, NCCAOM exam, and fourth, in staff workload. But before we go step by step through each of these issues, we would like to begin our presentation by providing you with a quick overview of the Acupuncture Board. The Acupuncture Board has the exclusive authority to regulate the practice of acupuncture in California. It issues only one type of license, and that's in acupuncture. The Acupuncture Licensure Act commences with Business and Professions Code, Section 4925 et sec, and its regulations are contained in Title 16 of the California Code of Regulations at 1399.400 et sec. As set forth in Business and Professions Code, Section 4927D, acupuncture is defined as the stimulation of a certain point or points on or near the surface of the body by the insertion of needles in both a preventative or responsive approach. Acupuncture includes the techniques of electroacupuncture, cupping, and moxibustion. California has regulated acupuncture since 1972, first under the province of the Medical Board, and later as a separate body with a 7-member board. Today, the Acupuncture Board has 4 public members and 2 licensed practitioners as board members. The Acupuncture Board currently consists of an acting executive officer, 10 other permanent staff, and 2 part-time staff. The board performs the following functions: in licensing, examination, continuing education oversight and enforcement, training program approval and oversight, regulatory implementation, and administration. The board fully understands that its training program approval and oversight will no longer be one of its functions beginning in 2017, and we will focus instead on curriculum approval. The board has 4 policy committees: executive, education, examination, and enforcement. Committees serve as an essential component of the full board to address specific issues referred by the public or recommended by staff. Committees are composed of at least 2 board members who are charged with gathering public input, exploring alternatives to issues, and making recommendations to the full board. The board has expenditures of about $3.5 million. The board regulates approximately 17,000 licensed acupuncturists, and licensed acupuncturists are required to renew their license every 2 years and complete 50 units of continuing education. Let's move on to our presentation, which will focus now on each of the questions outlined by this committee. The first issue for discussion is, why has the board failed to meet its enforcement goals? The board understands that improvement in this area is necessary. Going forward, the board will be managed more effectively and given clear instruction in order to remove any impediment from expeditious resolution of these cases. The board continues to prioritize cases according to DCA's complaint prioritization guidelines policy and endeavors to utilize staff more efficiently to improve in our performance measures. In addition, the board will work with committee staff to receive statutory authority to come into compliance with the reporting requirements of Business and Professions Code Section 801. Overall, the board understands that enforcement is the most important function of we do in ensuring public safety, and we can and will improve.
Moving forward to the second issue that the committee would like us to address is, what has prevented the board from meeting the timelines outlined in its 2013-2017 strategic plan? The board takes full accountability for our delayed progress with the strategic plan. Under new leadership, the board is now focusing its attention to correct these issues with the plan in a timely manner and reaching out to stakeholders to ensure the involvement in all processes. We will work with our acting executive officer to prioritize review of the identified issues in the plan and create revised timelines for completion in a timely manner. Moreover, we will work with our executive officer to get a status update on the plan in each of our following board meetings.
Thank you, Jamie. The third issue that the committee would like us to address is, should the board take steps towards adopting a national examination? The board is closely examining this question. To that end, the Office of Professional Examination Services, or OPES, presented the findings of the audit of the NCC-AOM National Acupuncture Exam at the February 26, 2016 full acupuncture board meeting. OPES and representatives from NCC-AOM responded to board member questions, and due to the NCC-AOM non-disclosure agreement, additional information was presented by OPES and discussed during closed session. After a lengthy discussion and public comment, the board directed staff to work with OPES and NCC-AOM to address outstanding issues about the NCC-AOM examination. It is common practice for follow-up to occur once the report has been presented in a public forum. OPES and representatives from NCC-AOM agreed to continue working together with the expectation of providing the board with additional information for consideration at its next full board meeting on June 10, 2016. We will work aggressively and expeditiously to ensure that we have all the information that we need to make a timely and thoughtful decision in selecting one of the 4 options reported in the audit report, namely, first, to require the CALE only, or 2, require the NCC-AOM exam only, or 3, require either the CALE or the NCC-AOM exam, or 4, require the NCC-AOM or a California supplement. The board is committed to determining a fair, valid, and legally defensible licensing examination or licensing examination options, which meet the mandates established in Business and Professions Code Section 139, which prohibits artificial barriers to licensure. We have provided this committee with a copy of the audit report and have copies available with us today if you need more copies. Overall, the board understands that this is a very important issue and is committed to working with this committee and the legislature at large to pursue all the necessary legislative changes to implement board action as needed.
The fourth issue that the committee would like us to address is, should the board receive an increase in staff budget and office space in order to implement the provisions of SB 1246? The board fully understands that the purpose of SB 1246 was to reduce staff load, specifically as it relates to school approval. Moving forward, the new board leadership and acting executive officer will assess the needs of the program to ensure the board's mission of consumer protection is met efficiently and timely. Should it then be determined that the board needs additional resources, we will work with DCA to assess workload issues. However, we are committed to implementing the recommendations of this committee on this issue.
In closing, less than a month ago, actually a little over 2 weeks ago, I was elected board president and Jamie was elected as board vice president. These are leadership roles we both sought in order to seize the opportunity to expedite the progress and promises of this board, and more importantly, to improve upon the relationship with the legislature, this committee, and the acupuncture community. We can and we will do better. Jamie, Ben, and I commit to you today that the issues that have plagued this profession and consumers will receive the proper attention and corrective measures that this committee expects. We believe the board should definitely continue to operate as a program within the Department of Consumer Affairs. However, we understand improvement is needed. We will work tirelessly with this committee and the department to ensure that appropriate functional and legislative changes are made to strengthen the board's education, licensing, and enforcement abilities, as well as its partnerships with stakeholders. Today is a new day for the California Acupuncture Board. We are excited to continue to work with the committee and its staff and want to specifically thank Dr. Leandra Clark and Mr. Bill Gage, as they both have been integral partners in ensuring that the Acupuncture Board is fulfilling its stated mission to protect, benefit, and inform the people of California by exercising the licensing, regulatory, and enforcement mandates of the Acupuncture Licensing Act and the acupuncture regulations. We thank you for your time and look forward to answering any questions you may have.
Very good. Thank you for the testimony, and thank you for the good work and the leadership that you've shown so far in a very short period of time. And I had a number of questions, but I'm not going to ask them today because I think what you've done and given you the ability to make the changes and to really improve the operations of the board and the functionality and really with the end goal that I think we all are trying to achieve, which is to protect the consumer. And I think your goal is the same as ours, and you'll get there with some of these things. Do you see a timeline perhaps and so I will ask one question. Is there, in terms of making these changes, and I know there are a lot of different directions you'll be going, but is there some process that you've put in place or some timeline that you've developed?
Ultimately, it's immediate. We're actually working with our new executive officer to instill a lot of different issues that the Sunset Review Committee is brought to our attention. So for me, Hildy, and Ben, this is going to be a labor of love in the next year for us. So we have no doubt we're going to continue to work on this as best we can, starting on Monday, if not today. Or today is Monday, Tuesday, so tomorrow.
Tomorrow. That's good. All right. That's good. Thank you. Questions? Senator Bates.
Well, it's working now. Just to comment, Chairman, I think because they have made progress and there's kind of a new dawn, it would be nice to have them report their progress at another opportunity before a year goes by, so that we are understanding how well they're moving along. I mean, I think they need kudos. You'd have to wait a year, and perhaps new people, it might be helpful to, set aside a little bit of time so they can come and just give us a quick, things are going great kind of report. I think that would be helpful.
I think so, too. That would be good. Senator Wachowski, did you have a comment?
No pain control related question.
Very good. I think that would be appropriate, and we'll work on a timeline that fits to get a report back to see how the progress has been over the last
Perhaps
year.
it can be in writing.
Yeah, that would be fine. Yeah, just
We'd be honored to deliver any feedback you guys need at a timeline you decide.
We'll work on that. That'll be great. So, very good. Thank you. And why don't you just stay there? We do have open it to some public comment. If some people from the public or any organizations would like to share their thoughts related to the Acupuncture Board. Maybe we should, I didn't know that there were a number of people that wanted to speak, so if you'd like to just move to the gallery, that would be great. Thank you.
There's 2 people on the agenda. They're supposed to say.
Okay.
There's e-comment and CCAR.
All right. And you're right, they are. I didn't see them. Thank you. My apologies. I see we have a couple of individuals who are on the agenda to speak today, so we do want to hear from you, and
thank you so much.
others that may have comments as well. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much, the honorable chair and members.
Let me just, before we move forward, I'm looking for Corey Ward Cook
Okay.
and Mark McKenzie. So perhaps you could come forward and maybe take the seats over here and listen. We'll hear from you, and then we'll be happy to hear from the public. Thank you, Leandra. As always, you're on top of things. I talked to Rudy and told him we'll start when he said they texted to start when we wanted to. And then when we go at 3, you'll just continue. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here today.
Good afternoon, Senator Hill, and good afternoon to Assemblyman
There.
and distinguished members of the committee, the Joint Committee, and the staff that are represented here today. My name is Dr. Corey Ward Cook, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to address the Joint Committee on the proposed use of the NCCM examinations by the state of California. I am the CEO for the National Certification Commission for Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine, and I come to you today with over 30 years of experience as a healthcare professional, an educator in higher education, and with an additional 18 years as an association executive in 2 different organizations responsible for providing national certification examinations for use in licensure. In my previous position as the executive director for the American Society of Clinical Pathology, its Board of Registry, now called the ASCP Board of Certification, I was involved in working with the California Department of Public Health's Laboratory Field Service. And in that time period, there was an audit of our certifying exam, which resulted in the state of California adopting the phlebotomist technician level 1 certificate program used by the state of California. So I have had experience with having exams audited by an credentialing agency. In addition to my working with the Public Health Laboratory Field Service in California, in my 11 years as the CEO for the National Certification Commission for Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine, my staff and I have worked together with the Florida Department of Health through a contractual arrangement to provide the NCCM examinations for licensure of acupuncturists in Florida. Through an ongoing contract, the NCCM provides reliability and validity data on the time of contract renewal. So we do work with another state. I do want to comment briefly on 3 areas. One, the changes in the NCCM examination program since 2003, when the Little Hoover Commission conducted an evaluation of the exam process at NCCAOM. And also then talk a little bit about our response to the audit, just briefly, and how we might work with the state of California to realize California being able to use our exams. First, I just wanted to note that there are handouts of my testimony up there for everyone. Oh, there you've got them already. And there is a fact sheet as well that has a little more depth. I'm going to skip through some of the testimony. I'm not going to read all 8 pages. In the interest of time, I'm going to highlight just key areas for you. I do want to make some salient points, though. One, currently there are 44 states plus the District of Columbia that either require 2 or more of the NCC certification exams or require full certification by the NCCAOM as a prerequisite for licensure in those states. There are 5 states without a Practice Act. All states that have the Practice Act, with the exception of California, require all or some of these exams. Since 2004, the NCCM has made extensive changes and significant improvements to the exam and certification processes, including the creation of a set of modular exams. This was done to meet the needs of each of the states, because each of them have individually created separate licensing laws and requirements. The modular exam system includes the Foundations of Oriental Medicine exam, the Acupuncture with Point Location exam, the Chinese Herbology exam, and the Biomedicine exam. When you add all 4 of those together, they're each 100 separate multiple choice item exams. 400 items are on those exams collectively, and one would have to pass each one of those exams. It's a rigorous process. The collective content of those exams is covered on the California licensing exam in a single I believe it's a 250 item exam or 200 item exam. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention is that NCCM is quite capable of delivering and administering exams. We do that through Pearson VUE professional test centers. There's over 200 of them that we contract with all over the United States and actually even worldwide. And in California alone, there are 25 different sites. This means that an individual would probably not have to travel more than 50 miles to take an exam, and they could do it at their own convenience. The following other improvements have been made in the exam since 2004, and that was after the Little Hoover Commission. We went to, after doing those modular exams that we created, we moved from the written exams to the computer-based exams. That was in 2006. There had been a lot of cheating going on, and we recognized that. We decided to immediately, aggressively, we had heard about that in the community, that there had been cheating going on, so we aggressively went to computer-based testing, which is much more secure environment. I'll talk about that in a minute. And then even further, in 2007, the NCCM changed the certification exam administration format to computer adaptive testing, called CAT. I've been familiar with this. I've worked with computer-based testing, computer adaptive testing in my previous organization. It's been around for a long time. It not only proves examination reliability, but it also further reduces the potential for cheating or memorizing of test questions. This form of test administration is designed to minimize test question exposure, since every examinee receives a unique set of examination questions based on the test specification requirements and the tester's response to each of the new item on the exam. The computer adaptive administration model is both more reliable measure of competency and a very desirable administrative test model for candidates, because they can test year-round and they're scored in real time. So the candidate immediately can see on the screen that they have a tentative pass or fail status. We, however, though, make sure that all that is quality control checked, and then they get their final score report within 10 business days or less of when they see that first pass-fail on their screen. We also we work with the states, and candidates can request a score report sent to the states. That's done generally in 7 or less business days upon their request. I'm going to skip a few things on here. I do want to say that it's a highly secure environment at Pearson VUE. They do palm vein reading. They have photo IDs. They're not allowed to bring anything into the test room. And there's camera surveillance over every single computer station in which a candidate is taking the exam. And the test does not download until the minute the person says start. So it's highly, highly secure. We've had no instance of cheating on the exam since we went to computer-based testing. We also contract with Schroeder Measurement Technologies, a national research and psychometric service corporation that conducts professional competency assessment research and exam development services and psychometric services. This includes conducting the cut scores, scoring the exams, and other psychometric analyses to verify the construct reliability, fairness, and validity as needed for a number of our exams, for all our exams. One of the reasons we chose to work with SMT was it's one of the few psychometric vendors that actually has experienced psychometricians that can work with computer adaptive testing. It's a highly unique type of testing. And it is, like I said, more reliable, more test security, and candidates can test throughout the year. I do want to mention that California, I know, does offer Chinese language exams and Korean language exams. We do offer those. We have a very low volume right now, but we continue to offer those exams, and they would be available. We also have a very thorough complaint procedure, and as well as a appeal at 2 different levels for transparency for our candidates. Now, regarding the recent audit, I just wanted to make a few comments on that. We were very pleased to work with the OPS. There was 4 psychometricians on that team that we worked with directly, and 2 from OPS, and the other 2 were from outside of OPS. So I felt it was a very fair process and very, very good to work with them. After the report came out 2 weeks ago at the California Acupuncture Board meeting, we were pleased to hear the results. The purpose, I just want to remind everybody, of the audit was to see whether the NCCM exams were suitable to be used for licensing in California. The auditors were charged with determining if NCCM exams met the professional guidelines and standards outlined in the standards for educational and psychological testing. In addition, they were determined the extent of which the NCCM exams reflected the content specified in the 2015 California occupational analysis. So it was a twofold purpose. The conclusions of the auditors were, and I quote, overall, NCCM exams appear to meet professional guidelines and technical standards. The auditors did make some recommendations for improvements in their report and noted a few areas that needed to be addressed, and that was mentioned earlier today by the board members. The areas noted to be addressed can easily be implemented if necessary. However, some of these may not be warranted based on additional data that NCCM can supply to OPS. The NCCM psychometrician and staff look forward to working with OPS to resolve any perceived deficiencies or recommended psychometric analyses. And the NCCM is pleased overall that the NCCM test items on all 4 exams collectively reflect the content of the 2015 CAB occupational analysis. Further, the NCCM was pleased to see in the report that the acupuncture with point location exam and the Chinese herbology exam received some identifiable strengths over the CAL. The conclusion of the linkage study was that overall NCCM sufficiently assessed general areas of the California practice. There were some areas found to be, quote, not covered and appeared, some of them were missed by the auditors, and we'll hope to correct that with OPS when we meet with them. And then there's some areas that we definitely do not test. A couple of the areas, because you cannot write a multiple choice question for them, and one of them had to do with collaboration, for example, with other acupuncturists. Other performance-based exams or so forth might get at that, but as a multiple choice test, it wouldn't be appropriate. And then there are some areas that are definitely not covered on the NCCM exam that are the California laws, state regulations, and practice requirements specific to California to include, but not limited to, health and safety codes. I do want to mention that in my preliminary research, I found that Texas, who uses our exams, also offers a state jurisprudence exam, Nevada, a state practical exam, New Mexico, a state clinical skills exam and a jurisprudence exam, and New Jersey, a state acupuncture safety and jurisprudence exam. And there are a number, as you know, perhaps of other health care professionals that use national exams: chiropractors, clinical social workers, naturopathic doctors, cytotechnologists, podiatric medical doctors, et cetera, just to name a few, use national exams. In summary, I would like to say that the value of the NCCM certification and its exams is demonstrated by the acceptance of 44 out of 45 states that use the exams for licensure, and an additional 25 out of 44 that require full certification as an NCCM diplomate in acupuncture or a diplomate in Oriental medicine. NCCM has developed a fair and legally defensible examination program that tests competency of entry-level skills and knowledge that have never been legally challenged. The assurance of a longstanding defensibility is one of the multiple reasons why states in the U.S. regulating acupuncturists, except for California, use the NCCM exams as a prerequisite for licensure. All active NCCM certification programs are accredited by the National Commission for Certifying Agencies, which is a separate commission under the Institute for Credentialing Excellence. And there are 21 standards we have to meet. We also have a code of ethics. We work very closely with the states on the code of ethics. It helps us to better look for people who have had that have sanctions and work closely with the states. We do work with California a little bit on that, but we have jurisdiction of them if they are diplomates. I do want to mention one other consideration that hasn't been made, and that is that I looked at just this past weekend when I was working on this testimony, I looked at how many candidates took the California exam last year. There was 598 in 2015 that took the exam. I got data from our own database we track how many people from California schools that have recently graduated or are getting ready to graduate apply and take our exams. There were 311 last year. That now gets it up to 50% of the students graduating from the California accredited or candidate schools are still taking our exams. They do both. So this demonstrates there's a significant interest in graduates from California accredited candidate programs desiring to take the NCCM exams and become certified. The NCCM staff and the SMT psychometrician and I look forward to working closely with OPS to assist with providing the additional information necessary to identify the few areas that do appear to do not be covered on the NCCM exams or missed in the linkage study, or to fill in any gaps in the psychometric analysis if needed. And we are hopeful to help, with using Pearson VUE professional test centers if you desire. There is flexibility in shaping the exam requirements so that the content from the 2015 California Occupational Analysis could be reliably and validly tested so the candidates can test year-round, and the CAB can continue to set additional requirements or standards for education that may be at a higher level than other states. I want to thank you for the opportunity for the testimony today, and if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Thank you. Mr. McKenzie, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you, Chairman Hill and committee members. My name is Mark McKenzie. I'm the Executive Director of the Accreditation Commission for Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine. We're the only specialty accreditor recognized by the U.S. Department of Education to accredit schools and programs of acupuncture and Oriental medicine. We're actually founded in 1982, first recognized by the department in 1988, and have been continually recognized since. As I was here this morning, I'm going to keep my comments very brief for you guys. I know you have a very busy afternoon. As an accreditor, our interest is in creating the best schools that are out there, that is possible. Protecting the public is absolutely important to us and to the schools and to this profession. So I'd also just like to take a moment and thank the committee staff for the work that they have done, and also acknowledge the new CAB leadership. They've gone through a very challenging transition over the last couple of weeks, and as I said, it's a new day. I think we're all looking forward to that. So unless you have any specific questions, or I'll just stop now and answer any questions that you might have about accreditation.
Thank you, Mr. McKenzie. I appreciate that very much, and thank you for coming today, and I appreciate the conversation on accreditation as well as on the school and the testing that's necessary, so thank you. It's very helpful. So now we will take public comment from those who are interested, and I don't know if, is there one presentation that you have? Is that what we're looking at?